Good evening and welcome to Islandish podcast, here with your favorite homegrown yams. And I am here with my best friend, one of my, the first person to take a professional picture of me.
Oh, from
This was
those
back
days
from what it was called, the fashion, the agency.
The travel club, yes, the agency.
The agency,
wow.
when I first
That's
got
so
into
good. Wow.
modeling. The first photographer to take a professional picture of me.
You and Lonnie.
Me and Lonnie.
Yeah.
Listen, Preston, Knowles, welcome to Islandish podcast. Finally.
So happy to finally be here.
The schedule is finally aligned.
Finally aligned, but I'm very happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, if you are in Freeport, Grand Bahama, and you do not know who Preston Knowles is, I don't know what rock you are under. You have been prominent in the area of photography for a very, very long time. I think you're one of the few people who never really left Freeport.
Yeah, only if work allowed or vacation.
Yeah, you never even moved, not for schooling, not for work.
I mean, college dropout, you know.
Yeah, so, let's dive into that.
Oh, boy.
You are a college dropout. I like to call them that.
Proudly I am.
Why did that happen?
I went to COB, as you know, because we were fortunate enough to meet there. But reasons beyond my control, I just was never able to go off. And I didn't finish at COB because what I wanted to major in, which was architecture, I would have had to move to Nassau, and at the time that wasn't really an option. And the whole going off to college thing just didn't happen. I didn't tell my mother about the opportunity that I had, thinking that I wasn't going to be able to do it, or she wasn't going to be able to do it, and then I got riled for it because she would have made it happen.
Right.
But nothing by chance. I believe everything for a reason. So here I am today, college dropout and all, and I think I am doing pretty well for myself.
I agree, you are.
Yeah.
And my friend is so multifaceted. Y'all gonna have me say my friend a lot, so get used to it. Because you're not just a photographer and videographer, you're also a director and producer of several plays and also award-winning productions as well.
I have to get used to that, yes. We were fortunate enough to win the Star Film film competition in Nassau. And funny enough, with the whole directing and producing thing, even as far as theaters related, I'll start there. I had no interest in that sort of stuff, none whatsoever. I became involved in that through going to the theater, waiting on Alfred, because you know that's my best friend. And he used to be a part of the shows there, and I just was with him to one random rehearsal. And of course, they are taking long, and I'm sitting in the lobby, and a lady by the name of LaSalle Harris, she came to me, and she was like, hi. She said, can you sing? Can you something? And then she just was like, okay, great, you're in the yard group. And, you know, thinking, I'm just like, anyway, I ain't gonna see this lady again anyway. So it's just like, okay, mom. She asked for my number, I gave it to her. And sure enough, she did reach out. And I did go back. And honestly, from there, that's where it all started. I've been fortunate enough to have sat on the Yard Board, which is the Young Adults branch, and then the Freeport Players Guild, of which I'm still a board member and past president. And I've been able to direct and produce a bunch of other shows under the guild, and I even went on to do some personally and with other persons. So I'm forever indebted to the Freeport Players Guild.
I love that. And he sounds so political and so correct with it.
You know, you have to be demure.
Yes.
You have to present yourself a certain way, but yeah, man. And I know just for persons that may know the post Preston now, I know it's probably weird to most because I can definitely say the person that I was a few years ago, I'm definitely not today. And I know some persons that may come across a certain way, but again, wherever you're trying to go in life, you know, it's certain things you have to adjust, you have to, you know, get on board with. And yeah, I'm walking into my more professional adult self, and I'm proud to be here.
I love that. Look at all us growing up.
Right? It's about time,
don't you think? It's about time.
But,
okay, so let's talk about your start in photography, because at one point you was PK photography, now you're Preston Knowles photography.
People can't find those stuff. But
so let's talk about how you, because the story is amazing and some people really don't know it. But how did you go from college and now being in what you are now, which is Preston Knowles?
Well, that started with friends like you and of course my sister Piandra Knowles. She was the very first person that I did a photo shoot with as PK photography. We were literally home chilling one day, and I don't know if you remember that pirate ship that was parked out by, well, Bones is this way, and then Grand Lucas and the canal that's right there. There was a pirate ship they used in some movie or something, and it was parked there for months.
Yeah.
And we literally pulled up there and we snuck on it, and that would have been my first time taking a camera and doing a photo shoot. And from there, it literally just started at COB with friends like Kamara Clark, LaDonya, those. We were in Cobus. We were part of the travel club and different clubs. And at the time, photography was still a thing that wasn't really that popular. I remember there was Ken Ewan at the time. He was big.
Yes.
And I loved his work. And it was just a matter of just honestly experimenting. Of course, you know Alfred Anderson, that's my best friend. We both had the interest. And from I was young, I remember I asked my mother for a digital camera and she got it. And from there, that's where it all started. And I can't honestly remember. From there, it's been a blur. I left Kelly's, which was my last job, in 2015.
I remember that.
And it started leaving work, like, because we used to get one Saturday off, right? And, you know, Saturdays is a prominent wedding day and event day. So those days, having to work and then getting calls to actually shoot stuff. I remember it was this time called into work, went to shoot a wedding, and my supervisor ended up coming to the reception. So that was interesting. And that kind of brought my time to Kelly's to an end. And then I eventually left. And I've been doing that ever since. And that was 2015.
So you've been a full-time photographer ever since then.
Full-time creative entrepreneur.
What was the first camera you bought? You remember?
Lord, okay, let me see. It was a Fujifilm something. It had a pop-up flash. It was like a entry-level Fujifilm camera, and then I had a little Canon one that I got from Alfred. And then I think I got my first Nikon body, and then from there I've been shooting Nikon.
So Nikon is your preferred camera?
Most definitely Nikon.
Why so?
Because it's the one I'm most comfortable with. I grew to learn everything about it, how it operates, and just making it work for me. And it costs a pretty penny. But like I tell people, Nikon is kind of more technical in terms of operation. But because, like I said, I've been working with it from I started, that's my preferred camera of choice. But I am familiar with Canon as well. But like I say, Nikon would be my preferred.
Would it be because you're also dabbling in photography as well? I mean, videography as well? Why the Nikon is better because of its duality?
Well, Nikon just recently, honestly, in their later models, kind of really tapped into video capabilities. So for me, it's quite the opposite. It was, I got familiar with it for photography, and that's where my comfort spot kind of is. The videography thing is still fairly new, but I think I have like decent enough knowledge about it to, you know, build on it, but still make it work. And I have been doing that. That's why I don't really push that too much. Like if you were to follow any of my work, you'll see that I don't share a lot of video work that I do, but I do quite a bit. And yeah, but moving into video, I would actually prefer, you know, one of the other brands like Sony or Canon, because they just have better specs for video. But like I say, I make the Nikon work because I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
And the glass and the lens and all that sort of stuff.
That's amazing. So with your business and the different, first off, what all services do you cover or do you try to do with your photography business?
I'll say this. I offer all photography services with the exception of christenings, funerals, kids' parties, and anything related to those three elements. But everything else outside of that, like corporate events,
Do you do sporting events or large-scale festivals and stuff? I can,
yep. Not really preferred, honestly, but I do cover those sorts of stuff. I've been fortunate enough to do pretty much all of the documentation for Carnival Celebration Key. I've been afforded opportunities. Oh, I have to plug this in. So there's a lady called Cleopatra Russell, who I would say I pretty much owe my corporate professionalism and just business from that standpoint to her, because Grandmama Power Company was the first client that I had with Alfred. We did work for them, and my first time shooting corporate would have been, for them at least at the time, would have been after Hurricane Matthew, where me and Alfred single-handedly documented all of the restoration stuff for the power company. That was quite a task, but through that, I learned a lot. And like I said, it's through people like Cleopatra and, of course, Alfred, taking the risk with bringing me on. Because at the time, that would have been just about 2 years after I left Kelly. So it still was kind of a freelance thing. But literally, we, pat on the shoulder, we frigged that up. Pardon my French. But like I said, it was a lot of work, but we did a damn good job. And, you know, that was pretty much the start of the corporate entry level. And from there, it honestly took off. I've been fortunate to do work for places like Alive, the Shipyard, Jesus, it's so much. I don't even know, BTC, Family Guardian, and just a host of other companies, whether that's portraits, events, or any other sort of work. I've been fortunate enough to do that. And all of that started from, like I said, the Grandmama Power Company.
Okay, I love it. I love it. So what is your favorite type of work to photograph?
Honestly, since I started like shooting for things like Carnival and stuff, ships and other machinery and things that aren't, human, I can say things like, oh, my arms look big. Oh, can you edit this? Can you edit that? Those tend to be my favorite sort of things because it's no critique on, hey, make me look slimmer or stuff like that.
The shipping and say I look fat.
Right.
Right.
But I do have a fond love for, I grow to like glamour and pageantry and that sort of stuff. I do a lot of those stuff through friends like Daryl and Dominic, those who have pageant houses, and I do a lot of work for them. I actually love it because, it's shooting people when they are technically at their best in terms of like hair and makeup, and it's professional models most time. So it's just an ease as a photographer, as an artist. Anyone would want to work with someone who makes their work easy. And of course, you can use the product or use them when it's all said and done. So I do a lot of philanthropic stuff through that. And I like that.
I love it. Okay, so that's your philanthropic endeavors.
And of course, the theater, very much philanthropic.
Right, 100%. So with that being said, do you think that the risk you took with your photography business is what helped to propel you into taking risks when it came to theater?
Definitely. So at the time, and shout out to my mom if she's watching this, when I made the decision to walk away from Kelly's, at that time, that was, when you first get to that age where your parents say, it's time to start contributing to
the house,
bills.
Right. Yeah.
So that was that period of my life. And I remember distinctly, I came home the Saturday and I told my mom, I said, you know what, I don't think I go back to Kelly's. I put in my 2 weeks. And she's like, okay, that's good and fine, but whatever you do, just know that you have your commitments that you need to meet at the end of every month, which was like, at the time, I was like, oh, you'll see how it go. But I knew that she was serious about that. So it wasn't an option for me to sit around and do anything. And I'm sure at those times too, we were living life like going out, and I still don't understand how
we had the money.
That life to be going out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, And at the time, still even setting up photo shoots in your house, shooting friends and stuff for $30 and stuff like that. So it's interesting. But at that time, like I say, I didn't have the option of not making it work or not being able to provide for myself. So I kind of took it serious, not as serious as I needed to, but serious enough that I could have met those commitments. And as time went on, and like I said, when I got into certain spaces, more professional, more corporate spaces, it refined the artist or just a freelancer, and it produced, a business person. And I'm still building on that person, honestly, and learning things along the way. But I can definitely say that was why I started. I didn't have a choice. I had to survive and still have to, which I think is something people don't really realize. When you work for yourself, especially in a creative field, we don't get the luxuries that, when persons get off at 5 o'clock, they know that on Friday their paycheck is going to be there regardless of how much it is. It's still a consistent, something you can look forward to. But for us, no, what we make is what we survive off. And we still have the bills. We're still getting older. Things like family and other commitments that you have, you don't have the luxury of saying you can't. And I always have this conversation with Alfred, and we always jokingly say, it's not cute for us to be successful anymore. Like, it's almost expected because we're not 18 anymore. We're not 19. We're like 35. Like, we're old, So, and as things go on, times change. And just how we entered the market young, the same thing can happen to persons under us. So you still got to remain relevant. You have to stay on top of things. And of course, offer things to a standard.
I love that. So we're going to take our first commercial break, but then when we come back, we can really dive into the nitty-gritty of photography with Preston Knowles.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jason.
And I'm Cheryl. Join us here on Superior Talk Bahamas YouTube channel every Tuesday at 6 for Let's Talk,
where we talk about issues that matter to you. We try to come up with workable, practical solutions so we have more action and less talk.
See you on Tuesday.
Okay, so we're back with Islandish podcast right here with Preston Knowles, my best buddy. So we're going to dive into the nitty gritty of photography because I feel photography is one of those industries that persons feel like, oh, he just taking pictures.
Oh.
And then it's also one of those fields that people want champagne results with bare money. So
let's have the conversation.
Let's talk about the behind the scene cost of your industry. So what really goes into being a full-time photographer, videographer, and what do the day-to-day costs look like?
What goes into it is one, extreme amount of money, an extreme amount of sacrifice. That's missing events, missing trips, missing parties, to, of course, dive in. And of course, losing things like sleep, which is kind of unhealthy. But trust me, like I said, when you work for yourself, it's a different type of hustle that you're on, especially if you're someone who a lot of persons depend on. Like myself, like I have a lot of commitments, you know, and a lot of it is outside of myself personally. So that's a heavy thing to carry. But of course, I think God gives those challenges to persons that can take it on. And thankfully, through him, I've been able to do that. So definitely, you have to have your money. You have to have a relationship with money that it makes sense. This is something that I'm still even to today learning. You have to sacrifice. You have to sometimes say, I'm not going out this weekend because I need to save for a lens that costs $2,000, or a camera body that costs $4,000, $6,000. You know, a memory card that costs $200 just because you don't want a slow card or something that's going to corrupt while you're in the middle of shooting something. So you got to make the investment in yourself. And that first starts mentally, honestly, by one, thinking that you deserve to make that investment in yourself and then actually doing it and sticking to it, honestly, because trust me, there are some days I'd be lying if I say I haven't had days where it's like, you know what? Maybe I should just pack this stuff up and just go get a job somewhere.
Yeah, I've had that
and
day.
then I always think about me as a person. It's just like, you're not going to work for anybody.
Yeah.
You're not going to survive. Not at this point in my life. Because I've been doing it so long.
Right, yeah.
It's just like to go back in a working field with having to answer to people, especially in a certain field. It's just like, that's going to be rough, just being honest. So again, things like that propel me. Because, you know, once you start something, you want to elevate from there. And that's pretty much where I'm at, just trying to elevate my brand, elevate myself, and stick to the course. So you have to be willing to spend that money, be willing to lose some sleep, you even lose some friends in the process, because as you go to places you're trying to get to, everyone can't go with you. And that's just a sad reality of life, that people sometimes are your biggest hindrances. And then for me, like I always tell people, my biggest challenge is myself, because I'm very critical. Anyone that's worked with me on any project know that, buddy, I like to set a standard and I like to stick to it against all odds. Like, I don't care what comes with that. If that requires, you know, having to have a tough conversation or, you know, things that, you know, in the moment may cause some tension or just shift things up a bit, but in the long run, you know that it's for the better. I'm fine being one of those persons, you know, just to get the best overall result. And it's things like that it takes.
I love that. So with you being in photography, I mean, we were talking about the champagne taste with the bare money.
Oh.
Right. When it comes to that, especially for bookings and work that you do, what are some of the unrealistic expectations you come across sometimes?
Just like you said, wanting champagne but have the budget of a bear. And again, everything is not about the money. Just being honest, I've done countless work. I still do countless work where I don't receive money for it, or little to nothing. And one of my biggest challenges with people is that trying to get them to understand the value in what you bring. It's not just picking up a camera. It's not just snapping a photo. You know, it's like you came to me because, one, you clearly see something that I have that you want. And then two, that means that I provide something that's, you know, admirable. So our art isn't just snapping a photo. It's literally you're paying me for, after I snap that photo, I have to go home and, like I say, lose hours of sleep worrying about, okay, I have to move these bumps off of your face. I have to, because just naturally, you know, as you build relationship with clients, you understand what it is they look for.
Right.
And even moving into like this day and age with the whole AI concept, I always tell people, they ask me, how do I feel now that AI is doing all of these photo prompts and stuff like that? I told people AI has always been here. If you look at it, photo editing softwares like Photoshop was the first levels of AI.
Right.
When we retouch, and back then it was airbrushing, a word that I hate. But when you look at things like that, it's always been around. And it's been from people, you know, I guess not really being comfortable with their imperfect selves. So our job is kind of, it's a rock and a hard place, honestly. But people just have to be realistic with their expectations, you know. Like when you come to us, be realistic and say, okay, I'm only paying this amount. I can't reach for the stars. Or at least come in a way where it's, you know, it's not insulting or not degrading to say. And then, again, you may not be everyone's cup of tea. So that's another challenge, too. I had to learn that every client isn't the client for me.
Right.
Like certain types of jobs I wouldn't take on because I just don't feel like it's my strong point, and I'll refer them to other people. So that's another thing you have to be very conscious of, knowing what works for you and who works for you. Because I've done some jobs in the past that I'm not proud of, and I like I said, I'm my biggest critic. So I'm horrible with posting. I always get riled from Alfred Colette. All my friends always tell me, you need to post work. Like, this is good. Why aren't you sharing it? And again, it goes back to things like that imposter syndrome and just always overthinking that this is not good enough or it's not to your standards. So I'm working on not letting perfect be the enemy of good. Shout out to Cleo. Ever since she said that to me a few years ago, it kind of stuck. And that's kind of a space I'm operating in within my business, not being so nitpickish on myself and just actually sharing the art. And I guess another challenge would be time. I don't think people understand and respect time outside of that hour or 2 hours that you're going to be in front of the camera. Like I say, it's hours of post-processing,
editing.
Especially with things like video where you have to literally sit down and watch something and listen to something a million times over and over to get the right cut. You got to worry about, oh God, this shot is overexposed. How do I fix this? And you can't go back to a client
And
on
say,
a
"Let's
wedding and
record
say,
that again."
hi, I need you to get married again because I missed this shot.
Right.
Or, you know, so it's a lot of things, and you don't just pay for that physical snap of a picture or that press of a shutter. You pay for everything else that comes with it, the creative process, the thinking, the editing, and like I say, the time above all. And other than that, I think those are just the biggest challenges.
I love that. So getting into that, especially with events and special moments, I know those are difficult because I've helped you with a few of those.
Yes. I just remember, shout out to my first assistant.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, you will call me and be like, Yams, I have this wedding,
Dress
bigger than I
professional.
expected.
Yes.
Well, as much black or black flats, I can need you to help me do this work. So
Most definitely.
with that being said, and with those type of jobs where you're working with third parties, because then at weddings, you have the wedding planner, you have the bridal party, you have family, you have all these different things happening. What are some of the challenges, good and bad, experiences that you've had in doing that type of work? Or things that happen that people don't think about that goes into the cost that you charge for weddings?
Okay, so like with weddings and stuff, I normally have a consultation process where you speak with the couple well ahead of time when they first come with the general inquiry, and you just kind of get an idea. That's your first time to really feel out the client, to understand one, like I said, if this is a client that you need to take on, because sometimes you'll know from the onset whether or not you need to walk into a job regardless of how much money it's paying. And that's another thing I learned. All money is not worth it no matter the amount.
Yeah.
Some things you just walk away from to save yourself stress, save yourself possible, brand
Tarnishing.
damage and stuff. So you just have to, you asked me about
Weddings.
weddings, yes. So working with things like a plan and from a consultation standpoint, you kind of get that first feel for it. Now, I'll use this as an example. Brides are technically very in their head and they're very hell-bent on what they want. But I think sometimes they're unrealistic, especially if you're coming from a foreign country or foreign land to come here. It's just things like simple things. One, island heat is different from coming from New York,
Right.
or coming from some cold place to come here to get married in the summer, because you think, paradise, blue skies, clear waters, all that sort of stuff. The sun is real. So normally you would try to, in those initial consultations, explain to people that, okay, a bride may say, yeah, I want my wedding to be at 12 o'clock in the day outdoors. Mom, I don't think that's wise.
Right.
Simply because your makeup is going to be gone. Your husband is probably going to have sweat under his armpits and stuff like that. And those are things you have to consider. Again, you're not just paying for the click of the camera. You're paying for this sort of stuff, this attention and this care to detail. And then things like planners, they too have to remember those things. Like, I've been fortunate to work with some amazing people. Shout out Davina of MYB, Andrew Forbes. and some others that I've been able to work with. And I think they all do a good job at just managing clients' expectations. That's a big thing. And I feel like that's something where you could kind of fall short. And two, time. You have to make people realistic of time, and also with yourself. Like, I can't just say, okay, I'm going to shoot your wedding, give you 4 hours coverage, and lie to you and just say, yeah, I'll be able to catch all of that in 4 hours, knowing that your wedding is in West End, you're taking photos at Tino Beach, and your reception is at Blair House. 4 hours is, I would not sell that option to a client, because that's just not realistic, or you won't get the coverage that I'm sure you're looking for. So it's being honest with clients, being honest with yourself, managing expectations, and then, of course, the overall commitment to a final product. Whatever you tell clients they're going to get, ensure that you give it to them. And that's a big one, too, because, like I say, if you miss certain things on certain days and certain events, you don't get a do-over.
Right, yeah.
And weddings is one of those things that you shouldn't do more than once. So, like I say, you don't have the luxury of going back and telling a client, oh, hey, I missed something. But sometimes it happens. Now, whether it's the fault of you, like equipment fault or weather or something like that, or sometimes, most times, if in my case, if I miss something to the one, it's because the timing didn't allow or things didn't go according to schedule. So in those moments, you have to know how to manage dealing with things like that. So there's a way to kind of handle disgruntled clients while still being respectful, but sometimes you have to assert, a certain level of firmness just so that they don't run over you.
Right.
So that's another challenge that people need to be careful of. You have to be able to handle people in good and bad situations. And I think I've been fortunate enough to kind of be a good handler on that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So far, you're knocking these questions out the park, but we're about to get a little bit deeper after this commercial break.
Yo, what's up, Bahamas? My name is Andrew Williams, aka Cat.
And I'm your boy Mix.
And we're representing Off the Bench, the #1 talk sportcast in the Bahamas.
In the world, my boy.
My bad partner. So we cover anything sports throughout the Bahamas. We cover our Bahamian athletes wherever they are, and they're making waves in sports. We cover them.
Hey, just tune in. That's every Wednesday here on Superior Talk at 6:00 p.m.
The #1 talk show
in the world, Craig.
That's right. You're here on Islandish Podcast. Welcome back to the show. But we're going to remind you to make sure you like, comment, and share. Make sure you subscribe to Superior Talk down below. Make sure you're following Islandish 242 and also hit the notification bell. We have a lot of different shows here on the Superior Talk Network, and make sure you catch each and every one of them every day of the week right here on your favorite channel on YouTube. Now, Mr. Knowles, let's dive a little bit deeper.
Okay.
Because I know he can say it and he can talk about it, because these are things that you guys need to know and understand. I know you've experienced persons and people at events who, because like, for example, let's say I have an event. I have a party, or even my birthday or my wedding. And you as the photographer, I paged you for this event, and I paid you to take pictures of whatever. You're doing your job. You know what I instruct you to do. And now there are guests at my event giving you separate instructions. How do you handle that situation? Whether they're blocking, they're in the way with their camera trying to catch a moment you're trying to catch, or even they're at an event, they're saying, I don't want my picture taken. But they're not the one paying you for the event. How do you deal with that?
This is fun.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm asking is because I know we have young people who are trying to get into photography and trying to figure out how persons like you who are seasoned in this field handle those type of situations. So not how you used to, how you do handle those now.
Well, how I do now, firstly, I always encourage people, put it in black and white. That helps with managing expectations, and it also gives you a reference point to refer back to. So in my weddings contract, before you even book me, you get a list of terms and stuff that are just simply non-negotiable. One of them is the fact that, if there's going to be another photographer or videographer there, I need to know that in advance, just so that I know on the day of that one, I'll be working along with another independent photographer or videographer, so we don't obstruct each other and we don't get in each other's way. And just so that I'm aware that someone else will be capturing this particular moment, which is designed for you and your spouse and your family to be intimate. So that's one thing. And when you encounter difficult people, like I say, that's in my contract. I don't really answer the persons who didn't hire me. If it's events, and I simply go around, like I have a standard way of doing like receptions. I'm gonna come in, get my detailed shots after I would have just gotten the formals with the couple, and then I usually go around to the tables and I literally ask every single guest there, if they want a photo. Some persons agree, most agree actually, and then there are one or two who would say no, and then there's some that are even rude and say, I don't want my picture taken, don't take my picture for whatever reason. But again, you have to be able to manage people without, showing it on your face or being rude. So I simply just say, okay, or I'll do my little praying hands and just go to another table. And like I say, when you encounter difficult people, literally, I find that the best way to do it is be graceful about it. You could even smile it off sometimes. Some people will try you who don't pay you, especially at weddings. I find that persons sometimes forget that it's not their day. And the persons who will usually pay you, whose day it is, they're normally tied up either, talking to this one, hugging this one, dealing with whatever stuff they had prearranged that probably isn't, happening. And you just kind of, keep everyone in their lane. Like I say, respectfully. I have no problem with asserting myself when need to. I'm sure that persons that work along with me know that that's
very well.
Fact. I don't tolerate disrespect. I don't think anyone should. I'm always respectful first. So if it ever gets to a point where it gets beyond that, believe you me, it was a situation where it probably was, antagonized. But like I say, I try to always deal with everything respectfully first. And I'm what you see is what you get. So when I'm shooting, I'm very personable. I try to keep people comfortable. That's one thing I love to offer when people shoot with me. I need you to be comfortable in front of me so that you can then give me a product that doesn't cost me have to work too hard thereafter. So, I normally allow you to see some pictures just so I can kind of gauge, okay, I noticed she liked the shots where she looked like this, so I'll do more things geared towards that. Or, and like I say, certain music choice, I'll ask you, do you have a preferred music you want to hear while on set? Or do you mind if I play this particular music, stuff like that? And just things like that.
Okay, awesome. I see that you also do drone work.
Oh, yes.
You also do drone operating.
Love drone operating.
How did you decide to get into that? And also in general, what formal training have you done, whether it's courses, classes, whatever, as it relates to photography and videography and drones?
All of this stuff is philanthropic at first and freelance. My father's a photographer. Shout out Preston, Knowles. He's been a photographer. He's shot a lot of persons that I'm now shooting their weddings. When I normally ask to the one back in the day, it would have been my dad or somebody who shot it. So that's always interesting to hear. But people would think that it was a situation where I worked along with my daddy and then he passed it on to me. But no, I just always kind of naturally had a knack for it. And after I started shooting, my dad gave me my first set of studio lights. And that carried me through for years, a long time. So I always tell people it's not really your equipment, it's how you use it. And now, fortunately, I'm able to upgrade those stuff. But, things like that is how I would have gotten into it. And
Training. Do you have any formal? You have no formal training.
Everything is honestly YouTube University, and then I did do some online courses of stuff. Like some photographers would offer like master classes. I paid and did a few of those, and then honestly through trial and error, like my lighting style, I keep it very simple, but it works for me. And if I need to adjust it in post, I know how to do that because again, I shoot for how I edit. And editing, the most challenging thing that I probably invested the most time in trying to understand and perfect is editing skin. And I'm sure if Alfred is watching, he could attest to this. I used to be like, Alfred, can you please just show me how to edit skin, man?
Right.
And he'd be like, Preston, just go look on YouTube. It's like, it's plenty ways to learn. And I used to get mad sometimes. It's just like, anyway, you being mean, but it's whatever.
So you being mean, you sound like a child.
Trust me, we've been through it. But yeah, I literally took time and, learned to edit those type of stuff. And like I say, that's why beauty and glamour is my favorite thing because I know what went into getting where I'm at now. And I actually look at some things that I do and I'm actually taken aback and I'm proud to say, Mother, I took that. That's a very nice photo. So like I say, getting over that self-imposter syndrome, it's a work in progress. But as far as training, it's honestly, most of it is trial and error and just through hands-on, like as I shoot, as I learn and look at different cameras and the specs, learn what this mode does, learn what this button does, learn what this setting does, and just seeing how they work and then adding it to your personal style. And it kind of gives you a little thing that's a little different from other people. So yeah. I like it.
Okay. So I'm happy that earlier you did mention about AI portraits and photos and different things like that. But do you think that it's easier to get into photography now than when you started?
Most definitely.
Why?
Because back then, and I'll use the analogy of probably let's do something like music. Back then, record sales and organic sales were physical sales that people went into stores and picked up a CD and purchased. So whereas when Michael Jackson sold Thriller, and he had all of those unit sales, it's just like persons walked into stores and
Waited in
bought
lines.
for those things. Now, I was fortunate enough to come up in a time when that mode was shifting too, because like I said, Photoshop was a big thing around the time that I got into photography, and it was still fairly new with the whole retouching skin and stuff. At the time, Spotlight Studios, I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I remember Spotlight
they
Studios.
did that thing, what was it called? Fantasy photo shoots where they would change the background and stuff.
Them and Eye Candy was doing that.
Yes, Eye Candy was the first. And then it was Spotlight. And then like those elements, all of those things, when you look at it, it's technically AI. It's just that back then it was a lot more difficult or technical to do those things seamless. Whereas now you literally can type or voice note something in the phone and in seconds you get a beautiful portrait. So I definitely think now it's easier for persons coming in. But does it bother me? No. Initially, I probably was like, wow, this is going to be interesting. But I always tell myself, like, buddy, persons either want you or they don't. And it's a part for every cover. So there's never going to be, I don't think there's ever going to be a time where photography is completely obsolete. I don't think that'll ever happen. Same thing with live theater. You know, certain things people still will, at the end of the day, want and pay for and appreciate. And again, you just have to offer a service or a product that people want. So like I said, whereas, persons may be into the whole AI thing now, then I just need to find the clients who don't really care for the AI, who don't mind getting in front of a real camera and seeing their actual features themselves and being okay with that. And no disrespect or anything towards persons who don't. That's just the times we're in, and we have to adapt and, live with the times and go accordingly. Yeah. So that's
I'm happy that you said that, and then you brought it back to live theater, because that's what we're going to dive into next, into how you got into directing and producing shows. And to be honest, in my personal opinion, people could say what they want to say. I think you're one of the best to do it so far from our generation.
Thank you.
You do an amazing job with producing and directing shows. And I saw this coming. I told you that. It's like these things are things that we always had gifts and talents and ways of doing. You used to be directing the outings when we used to go out, if I be an artist. You used to be directing and conducting and being like, well, he don't never know how to talk. He just don't say what he wants to say. So we just got to tell him what we want him to do. So you always had a knack for kind of getting the group together and getting all of our different emotions and making it make sense for the night. So what everybody wants to do fits into what we're trying to achieve, the plan. Sense. Right.
That's true.
So
I can take that.
What was your first time directing a show?
So, directing. All right, it kind of stemmed from the producing aspect, because my first time producing anything major would have been at the theater. My first producing role would have been in A Christmas Carol when we did Scrooge, and I think that would have been 2015. I think it could have been 14, 15, or 16, one of those. But that was the first time. And at the Guild, when you're a first-time producer, you normally have to shadow someone that's done it before. And at the time, I think Alfred had just done Sarah's Wedding and something else.
Keeping Up with the Bougies?
Because those were, by the time Keeping Up with the Bougies came around, that was outside of the Guild. That was Carell on her own when she did it for herself. So, but he had produced something, and we were always cool. So I kind of did that with him. And through that, I got to actually being around the cast and being at the rehearsals. I watch certain things, and I'm very critical, as a lot of people know, especially when it comes to things like performing arts and photography and stuff. So sitting down and just watching it all started from just noticing little things that I would have done differently had I was in that seat. And eventually it started with, we did the Michael Jackson Thriller tribute, which was an interesting story. Shout out to Ramon Webb. It was kind of his baby. But at the time when we were rehearsing and going through it, we noticed that through the direction, with him taking it on and being in it, which was already a feat, we kind of had to assertively say, you know what, just be the talent in it and just let us take over and deal with that part of it. And I think that would have been probably the first thing I guess I directed. But when it moves to stage, the first thing I directed by myself would have been Perfect Wedding in 2021. That was Hurricane Dorian. Whenever that was, when the theater was still closed and we had a showing of Perfect Wedding in the lobby. And that literally
Dorian
came...
was 2019, darling.
Okay, so that would have been 2020, whenever Alfred was president.
Yeah, that was 2020.
We were just at the point, I was tired of hearing that, but we can't, there's no theater, we can't do performing arts. And literally out of frustration, I just was like, well, I'll put on the play, I'll direct and produce it. And at the time it was COVID. So we couldn't have large audiences and it was in the lobby. And that was just a big challenge all on its own. One, coming together for rehearsals, making sure no one gets sick. Two, figuring out how we only could have 30 people max at a venue and need to make this make sense. So it was a lot. But thankfully, I'm proudly able to say that that show was really good. We transformed the lobby into a professional set, just how it would have been on the stage. And the actors did an amazing job. I directed them, and like I said, produced it, so all of the content and stuff. Literally directing, going home, creating flyers, taking pictures, going home, edit, putting together flyers, sending out videos, printing tickets, going to run and make sure, get stuff to the box office, pick this up. It was a lot. But I find that I work good in environments like that, honestly. It's stressful, but I guess after so long of such a bad habit, you kind of, you're able to take on more than the average person. So that then moved me around to being the production manager for people like Georgia Taylor from Georgia School of Dance. For the past, I think, 4 or 5 years, I've been a production manager and producer, and we've been faring pretty well with that. And it's just something I love. And of course, at the theater, and then most recently, I was able to direct and kind of produce for A Man's Point of View, which was a partnership between myself and Corey Damianos, who wrote the play, and that did well. My first directing role where I was paid for it would have been through Corel Pinder. After I worked along with her brother, Kenton Ressis, Perfect Wedding. He did it the first time. I did it the second time, and we've been working with Corel from the onset. And she called me, she's like, look, I have a group that wants to do a play for their sorority, and they want to do something different, so they want to do a show. She's like, listen, this is what they're working with budget-wise. Would you like to direct this? And at first I was like, this is where it gets technical, because it's like, now money is involved. Yeah. I don't know. So after some thought, I did it, and the show was good. People like Tempest, who was just on before me, was fortunate enough to be in that. We had a very good time. I think the process went very smoothly. It wasn't like, it didn't feel challenging at all with that particular group. That show was like, we had a time, and the show was good. It was only done for 2 nights because it wasn't done at the theater. It was done at BUT Hall, and it was for the sorority. So it wasn't like for a guild or anything. And then from there, I was able to do Risen for Christ the King, which was most recent Easter Pass. I directed that. That was another commission job. And yeah, different things at the theater and little socials and stuff like that. So it's been good. And then the film with In Sickness and in Death and Fate or Fortune, which we, like I say, able to win the competition with those. So it's been a good ride.
I gotta bring you back because now we over an hour talking and we only scraped the surface.
That's fine, but it's God is good.
Yeah. You really doing the damn thing, boy.
With no formal training, I always tell people, especially now than ever. That's why I like that you asked me about
training and what you studied and stuff. Yeah.
If I could give advice to anyone, young or old, one, it's never too late to start anything. That's anything in life. Once you literally just commit to it and go after it wholeheartedly, like take the sacrifices, be honest with yourself, manage your resources, and anything is possible to any young
because a lot of people feel like you know a lot of people in these fields that you're in. Like you know them for years, or people in this family and stuff like that.
A lot of people don't even know me outside of like Freeport. Like when I go to Nassau, I consider myself a very small fry. Mind you, not that I don't think my work can compete with persons in Nassau I stand next to, but it's just like, and that's a good humbling thing to just remind me that, boy, no matter how acclaimed you may be home or anywhere, just know that somewhere else in the world or somewhere else, you're still no one. Right. And I think that's something everyone needs to remember and stick to. And once you move in that space,
It'll keep you working.
it'll keep you grounded and it'll
Yeah.
keep you, on your game. Like I say, I'm very critical of myself, but again, and you want things to a certain standard, you have to be. You can't just put things out for putting things out, say.
Right.
And that's kind of advice I'd give to anyone coming into the field. Just do it, especially young persons. This is a world.
time.
Anything is
Yeah.
so simple to get into.
Right.
You can do anything right now and be successful. And I always tell persons, if you're not, that just means that you're honestly just lazy.
Yeah, that's
you
a
know?
self-reflection.
So that's pretty much all I got for today.
Yeah, and
know,
I'm
thank
happy
you.
that I had this conversation with you because I actually want you to go back and watch this video. And because I don't think you realize all the things that you mentioned and all the
Probably,
things that we're
'cause I-
talking about.
yeah.
And I don't think you realize we've been here for more than an hour
I don't
already.
feel that way.
Yeah,
And I have another meeting. So
exactly. So I just want to wrap this up and say thank you so much
Thank you,
for humbling
yes.
my podcast with your presence.
Listen, I am so happy that I finally made it. I'm
Yes.
so sorry it took me so long, but like I say, nothing before it's
Of
time.
course.
And again, thank you for asking me to be a part of this.
Yes.
I would definitely come back.
We will have to come back because we're going to talk about this more on a thespian. And I
Yes.
do want to do an entire thing where we're just talking about the guild.
Okay.
We're bringing persons from the theater here to talk
think
about
that's
the
important,
history
too.
of it, why it's vital, why it's important, and the
Most
different facets and positions that people can be involved in.
Definitely. Let's do
Because
it.
I think the theater has helped you to grow.
It has.
Helped you to work with
It
people you
has.
traditionally
yes, managing
wouldn't.
different personalities,
Yeah.
different people. Join the theater, guys,
Yes.
or join something to do with live production. I promise you it'll change your life. It'll change your life.
Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Islandish Podcast. Make sure you're following Preston Knowles Photo
Yes,
on Instagram and Preston Knowles Photography on Facebook. Like his work, book him, refer him. And as always, stay locked into Islandish. Thank you all for watching this episode.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Thank you.